Hey, what's going on, everybody? So Miami just wrapped up their fourth fall practice today. We weren't able to see anything from practice, whether it was the position drills or even any of the stretching today. However, we were able to talk to offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson and defensive coordinator Lance Guidry after practice, so that was good. And I will pass on some notes from what they had to say in this video, and also some things I asked the coordinators. But it starts with Tyler Harrell, wide receiver, limped off at the end of last practice. And because no coaches spoke to the media after practice, we weren't able to know exactly what happened with Harrell. So I asked Coach Dawson if Harrell practiced, and he said he practiced today. And I asked if it was fully, and he did say yes. So take that moving forward, and we will certainly see if there's anything at all with Tyler. But certainly at this point, it's positive news. More positive news with the offense. And Lance Guidry was saying, the defensive coordinator was saying that the offense did really good today, reeling off some big runs. Now, we don't know exactly which players had that because we didn't see it in the coaches. Neither coach said who had the big runs today, but certainly a good sign for the offense. Guidry just felt like, that they weren't able to do a good job either with their fits or some outside stuff, or even just kind of being in the right spots. But he said it was good for the offense, and he did say, you want to have, both teams, both sides of the ball doing well. So the offense today, running the ball in particular, did a good job, which is good to hear because Miami's run offense certainly needs to be better than it was a year ago. So that's good to hear. And kind of just staying with that, I think Mark Fletcher is an intriguing guy with this offense. And Coach did say that he's doing well with his adjustments into college. This is his first week of practices here. So he didn't go on about Fletcher, but he did say he is making good adjustments. So that's good to hear. And obviously with Parrish, Cheney, A.J. Allen in the mix as well. And then also freshman Chris Johnson. So good to hear from the rushing offense side of things. And just a little bit of a fall position battle update at that backup safety spot. Coach Guidry mentioned Jaden Harris has had more interceptions and has had a couple, so that was good for him, but also felt like Markeith Williams knows the defense better. So they're still in that tight battle, but that's what he said about each player there. And also said with KJ Cloyd and Wesley Bissaint, at the linebacker position, that weak side spot, certainly a lot of competition there. One thing he also noted was with Corey Flagg. He's a guy that we don't talk about very often, but Corey Flagg, coming off of the spring, he said with what he did in the spring compared to where he's at right now, he's made the most improvement of what they've done at linebacker. So maybe, Flagg is someone to keep in mind. He did also note just shortly after saying the positive things about Flagg that Maui is playing really well as well. And then also said at Media Day that he was asked if Maui essentially wins that middle linebacker spot, are they open to having Flagg, who's been a middle linebacker, playing that other spot if they do indeed determine that he is one of the two best linebackers on the team? And he said yes. He said they want to get the best guys out there. It's something that they will explore. And certainly there's some cross-training that goes on. And a guy like Flagg, I think, would be able to handle whatever role he's in with the experience he's had and just the ability to learn the defense. And you might think that's an obvious statement for a coach to make. However, we just had this conversation last year with former coordinator Kevin Steele about this same situation. Different personnel, but Flagg was still the cornerstone of the conversation. And when he was asked about this situation or with what they dealt with during playing time during the season, he said no. The middle and essentially the middle and the will are different positions, and that they wouldn't do that. So it's just a different coaching philosophy. It's something that Coach Guidry is willing to do, and something to monitor, because Flagg, like I said, if he doesn't beat out Maui in that middle spot, the transfer from Washington State, then maybe he could kind of slide in at that other spot, the weak side, especially if Cloyd and Bissaint don't show enough. So that's just something to monitor. And also if Flagg continues to have good practices, he has certainly impressed other coaching staffs that he's been around, and Guidry has spoken highly about him. Dealt with the foot injury in the spring a little bit, but he got that cleaned up, and he just feels like he's doing well at start of fall camp. So that's a good sign for Corey Flagg. Flipping it back to the offensive side of the ball, Coach Dawson, I asked about the wide receivers. Curious how they're doing, and if they're getting in, basically how they've done the first 4 days of practice, but also are they getting enough catches and receptions downfield? And he did say it's something that they're working on, and he also said it's something that is difficult to do, and it takes some time to develop. So that'll be something to kind of monitor moving forward. Obviously, you want to see their speed in action, and they do have speed at wide receiver. You want to see some guys make some catches downfield. So maybe that will continue to happen as fall camp kind of continues and into the season. Certainly, you'd like to have big plays during the season, obviously. So Another thing that he said about the wide receivers was he was asked specifically about Isaiah Horton and Jacoby George and kind of grouped them together in the sense that both of them have flashed but have really struggled with a little bit of the consistency thing. And I would like to have followed up with which receiver's been the most consistent. However, we were short on time and the interview was cut short and I didn't get a chance to ask that question. But certainly guys like George in particular, I think is a guy that you have a lot of focus on because he's been primarily their first team wide receiver along with Xavier Estrepo and Colby Young for not only the fall practices, but what we saw during spring ball as well. So to hear Jacoby not be as consistent, or essentially he was asked first about Isaiah Horton and said what he said there, and he said it's basically the same with Jacoby when he was asked specifically about Jacoby. So just something to monitor, and hopefully things pick up with Jacoby in terms of his consistency. We've talked highly about him and his talent, his abilities. I think when he's clicking, a lot of things are going well for him. He can be a playmaker. He clearly just needs to be more consistent, according to Coach Dawson. And as far as how many wide receivers will play in the game, it's always an interesting thing to ask new coaches when they arrive to the staff. And Coach Dawson said it all depends, and obviously it does, basically how many guys he feels comfortable with. But he did note, at times they've had 12 different receivers catch passes in a game, whether it's receivers, tight ends, or running backs. But he did say specifically about receiver, he said he could play 8 to 10. So we will see, are they going to have that short rotation, which I think a true 2 deep at 6. You've seen the video that David and I did. We talked about cutting it at 6. Just who are they going to top 6 going to be? But if they stretch it to 8 to 10, that certainly gives a lot more guys opportunities, as Miami has 11 receivers currently on the roster. On the defensive line, a lot of players have talked about movement. They're going to have a lot of movement this year. What that means, according to Coach Guidry, what he said after practice, that means 2 things. It means pre-snap movement, showing different looks, maybe sliding over the defensive line and then going back to your original spot, or maybe it's post-snap. Different things that they could do with the defensive line. So just a lot of movement along the defensive line. And he did say at media day that, look, they would definitely like to have a bigger defensive tackle playing in that role, but they don't. So they're going to try to find different ways to maximize the defensive tackle position. And to me, I think one of those ways could be a little bit more of the movement things and just kind of some matchup stuff. He said they've tried different fronts so far in fall camp. They're going to continue to work on some things. For example, like a bear front, they're going to continue to work on things like that as fall camp continues. Miami will have practice on Sunday. However, once again, we're not going to be out here for either viewing period or any interviews. However, I will have some things on the channels to stay tuned to. And then Monday, they're also going to be completely off, so no practice Monday. Obviously, we're not going to be out here for that. And then Tuesday morning, expect for them to return to practice there for practice number 6, as practice number 5 will be Sunday. Thanks again for watching. If you have any comments, definitely drop below. Obviously, check out InsideTheU.com for more information, complete information on how the team is doing, how they're looking, and everything that is said by the coaches will be posted later on the channel. So thanks for watching. Hopefully have a good rest of the day and take care.